Yeah, I think the four things I would say is that I believe we do have to commit to proximity. I think you have to find ways to get closer to people who are excluded and marginalized, who are disfavored. I think it's very easy in our world to isolate yourself from the problems of other people. And I just think we have to not do that. I think when you are proximate, you hear things you wouldn't otherwise hear. You see things you wouldn't otherwise see. So many of our elected leaders are failing because they're creating policies and making judgments that are crafted in places distant from the people who are impacted by those policies and judgments. And so for me, proximity is really key. It's proximity that got me to death row as a law student and changed my career. It's proximity to people who understood the power of that. The second thing is changing the narrative. I don't think it's enough to debate policies and issues. We have to understand the narratives underneath a lot of these policies. There are narratives in the world that are fostering bigotry and violence and hatred of others. And we have to change those narratives. We have to call them out. We have to say, that's a narrative rooted in bigotry and violence, and changing the narratives. When I talk about all children are children, that's a call to change the narrative that some children's lives don't matter, that some children are not children. The third thing I would say is hope. I am persuaded that hopelessness is the enemy of justice. I think injustice prevails where hopelessness persists. And I think our hope is our superpower. And you couldn't do what you do if you didn't have a hope that one day you could be someplace and actually create things that could have an impact. And I had to hope I never met a lawyer until I got to Harvard Law School. I had to hope I could be something I'd actually never seen anybody like me be. But I think it's really powerful and it's really important. During the pandemic, I was here in Montgomery the whole time. And I stand on the shoulders of people who did so much more with so much less. And they just had hope. They didn't have a lot of the things that I have. And so I think that's the third thing. And then the last thing is that we do have to be willing to do things that are uncomfortable and inconvenient. And it's hard because I think as humans, we're biologically and psychologically programmed to do what's comfortable. We like comfort. And there's nothing wrong with comfort. But it does mean that we're going to have to make a commitment. We're going to have to make a choice, a decision to do the uncomfortable if we're actually going to advance issues that need to be advanced. But I think when we get proximate, when we change narratives, when we stay hopeful, and when we commit to doing uncomfortable things, we position ourselves to be people who make a difference in the communities where we live, the places where we spend our time in the world, which is ultimately the goal.
Thank you so much. I've been thinking about that a lot during our conversation. Just how being uncomfortable really brings about change.
Yeah.
You have to do things that put you outside of your comfort zone, because those are the things that are going to be putting you and pushing you further.
Yeah.